It is day 170 of the second Trump administration, and the president warned today that there would be no extensions for his new August 1st tariff deadline. That means key trading partners like Japan, South Korea, and Malaysia have less than a month to broker brand new deals with the U.S. or face at least 25% tariffs. Trump also threatened a new 50% tariff on copper imports and a 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals, but he did not say when either would take effect. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick did what you'd expect him to do. He then defended these policies.
The idea is to bring copper home, bring copper production home, bring the ability to make copper, which is key to the industrial sector, back home to America. We need that kind of production in America. It's important.
And this evening, President Trump also posted the following to social media, and I want to give you a direct quote. "We will be releasing a minimum of 7 countries having to do with trade tomorrow morning." Yes, I agree. You're probably thinking, is there a noun, a subject missing from that sentence? I think so, too. But unfortunately, the White House has given no details to what that official Twitter statement, social media statement that the president put out even means. Meanwhile, we are watching another major reversal from the administration. Just days after the Pentagon announced it would pause weapons shipments to Ukraine, the president now pledged to send weapons, saying Ukrainians, quote, have to be able to defend themselves. The Wall Street Journal reports the president is also considering sending Kyiv another Patriot air defense system. That's major. It would be the first major weapon system President Trump provided that was not already authorized by the Biden administration. Now let's get smarter with the help of our leadoff panel, and we need them because that is a lot of new news. Jeff Mason is here, White House correspondent for Reuters, Leanne Caldwell, chief Washington correspondent for Puck, and John Allen, senior national politics reporter for NBC News. Mr. Allen, President Trump is changing the goalpost yet again on tariffs. How are countries around the world responding to this?
I mean, I think so far, Stephanie, it's a wait and see. I mean, they're certainly not rushing to try to make new deals with him. I think a lot of them look at him and say he's going to cut off his nose to spite his face, that the United States will be the country that is most harmed by these things. You look at the threat of a 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals. Well, if you hate the cost of your drug prices now, just wait until there's a 200% tariff. So I think they're trying to wait him out because he keeps saying he's going to impose these tariffs and doesn't do it.
Well, then help me with this one, Jeff. The president's statement. I'm going to read it again. The president says they will be releasing a minimum of 7 countries having to do with trade tomorrow morning, with an additional number of countries in the afternoon. Can you explain what that's about?
Yes, based on what he's done over the last couple of days, not based on the grammar in the announcement. He released a letter, or what day is today now? Tuesday. He released some letters over the last 2 days to the trading partners, starting with South Korea and Japan, who, by the way, are very important U.S. allies, and announced what their tariffs are going to be. And in those 2 cases, it was 25%. In multiple other countries, it's been more. What he's flagging there is that there are more countries coming, and that's because, Steph, we were expecting, or the president had suggested initially, that he would have 90 deals within 90 days, which is around right now. That didn't happen, and so instead of announcing a bunch of trade deals, he's announcing what, for now, the quote-unquote final tariff rates are going to be. And he's doing that piece by piece, letter by letter, and all on social media. So I think that's what he's suggesting tomorrow. But as you rightly said in your intro, we don't know which countries those are going to be, whether they're big ones, whether they're smaller ones. And we also know that it's not going to be the last tranche because there are more to come.
I'm not even sure that it's letters that are being released because it wasn't in his statement. Leanne, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the president delayed the reciprocal tariffs to August 1st after his advisors, including Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, told him he just couldn't get these trade deals done in time. They needed more time. Yeah, of course they need more time. Getting USMCA done, which was the most recent deal with Canada and Mexico, took 18 months. So, yes, we need more time. But going from 90 days to 110 or 120 days, that's bupkis. That's nothing. It takes way more time than that.
Yeah, it's quite complicated. And Donald Trump says that this is absolutely going to be the final deadline of August 1st. We'll see. He obviously, as we all know very well, changes his mind and changes his position many times. But let's just look at over the course of the past 90 days. He got 2, maybe 2.5 trade frameworks, maybe deals agreed to with Vietnam, China, and Great Britain. Some of those are frameworks as well. So they are way off that goal of 90 trade deals in 90 days. And as you said, Steph, it's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to notch the rest of those in the next 30 days.
All right, new topic, a very serious one. The president also reversed an earlier decision to pause weapons shipments to Ukraine. Aid will now resume. But what strikes me is that the president said or admitted that he did not order the initial pause. Leanne, how could that possibly happen? That without the president of the United States knowing, we made a decision to pause shipments to a country that's at war. Who's in charge here? How does this happen?
Well, I guess welcome to Pete Hegseth's Defense Department. It seems to be, according to reporting, that it was him that agreed to the shipment pause without apparently telling Trump, without apparently telling Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others within the administration. Now, there are a lot of questions on Capitol Hill about this. And the frustration with Donald Trump has been quite evident. But Steph, it's also just amazing, as you point out, that Donald Trump admitted this, that he was not the person to agree to this. And what's also quite maybe not shocking, but surprising is that Donald Trump now seems to be on board with sanctions against Russia as well. So there could be a lot of movement and a lot happening in the next few days in this Ukraine-Russian war.
I want to talk about the Russia position in a moment. But before we move on from that, John, I want to talk about how this is going to impact voters, because Democrats might be very happy to hear about the president's shift when it comes to Ukraine. But for months and months, a faction of the Republican Party, a whole lot of Trump voters, said they were sick and tired of so-called blank checks to Ukraine. So how are they going to take this move?
Yeah, Vice President J.D. Vance among them, one of the people who was most skeptical of the U.S. supporting Ukraine. I think most American voters don't vote on foreign policy. At the same time, if you're Donald Trump, it is hard to explain the strategy here for Trump in a way that lines up with a morality around this war or a preference for one side over the other. All he seems to care about is trying to figure out how to end the war and take credit for that. He said he was going to do it upon taking office. It's been about 6 months. He has made zero progress. He is now angry at Vladimir Putin, but we have seen him weigh in on both sides. We've seen him trash Vladimir Zelensky in the Oval Office, humiliate him or attempt to humiliate him in the Oval Office. And what you basically have is a zigzag policy that makes little coherent sense. And now a president who claims that he didn't even know that weapons shipments had been paused.
All right, let's talk about this Putin flip. I want to share what the president said earlier today, and I warn our audience before I show this clip. It does include profanity, and I am not responsible for saying it, nor are my guests, which is a big change for this show. Watch this.
I don't know. We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin. For you want to know the truth, he's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Okay, the question is, Jeff, is he really flipping on Putin? Are you buying this? These are new, harsh words. But up until this point, the president's policies have sure not been harsh when it comes to Russia.
Oh, I think you're spot on with that analysis, Steph. I mean, it's a new harsh word. It's one harsh word. But the truth is, the president has been complaining about President Putin for some time. And I asked him once, so are you going to do anything about that? And he got really mad at the question. He was asked again today about, well, will there be a shift? Will you consider sanctions? And he said he would consider the sanctions bill that Lindsey Graham is co-sponsoring in the Senate, but didn't go beyond that. The one piece of policy that we know is shifting, or is at least a manifestation of this frustration, is the fact that he's going to send more what he calls defensive weapons to Ukraine. But other than that, the rhetoric has been, though sometimes critical of Putin, as well as Zelensky, as Jonathan rightly notes, the policy has not matched the frustration. That said, I don't think we should underclub how frustrated President Trump clearly is, and not just because he used a profanity during a cabinet meeting. This president came in making a promise that he couldn't keep, that he would end the war within a day. Obviously, that was not going to happen. But I think he's deeply frustrated that President Putin is not helping him with his image as a deal maker. I also think President Trump genuinely is upset about the killings. I mean, he talks about the thousands of troops, both on the Russian and the Ukrainian side, who are dying every week repeatedly. So I'm sure that is something that weighs on him as well. But it is a genuine frustration now with the Russian president that he's not, making Trump be able to keep the promise that he made.
Okay, but the thing is, it is noteworthy. We now are seeing more Republicans joining Democrats to support this new sanctions bill that Jeff was just referencing. John, why do you think it's happening now? What changed?
Well, I think it's following Trump for the most part. I think it is obviously, as Jeff said rightly, it's a frustration with Putin. We see these sanctions bills. When Congress passes a sanctions bill, we'll of course have to see if it passes, what form it passes in. But typically what that does is empower the president to make the sanctions, or Congress will make the sanctions and empower the president to repeal them based on national security interests. So basically what they're doing is handing Trump maybe a bigger cudgel to use with Putin, a bigger threat to use against Putin. But I don't think Putin is making his decisions based on U.S. policy toward this war.
All right, another war discussed.
I would just
Yes,
jump
Jeff?
in, if I may, Steph. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in and add to that. If you look or listen closely to what President Trump said today when he was asked about that bill, he made a point of saying, it's my choice. It's my choice. And it is, in fact, his choice whether or not to sign that bill if it were to pass. But he just, that emphasis told me, or tells me, he certainly hasn't decided, even if he is flirting with or considering tougher sanctions on President Putin and on Russia.